22nd, I believe, of August 2nd. Please all rise for the flag salute. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. If everyone would silence or turn off their cell phones, please. I just did mine to make sure it doesn't interrupt the meeting. Public comments. This is the time for public comments. Council may ask questions but may take no action during the public comment section of the meeting except to direct staff to prepare a report or place an item on a future agenda. If you are here to make comments on a specific agenda item, you may do so at that time. If not, this is the time. Please limit your remarks to 5 minutes. Speakers, please speak from the podium. State your name and mailing address so that city staff can respond to you in regard to your comments or provide you with information if appropriate. You are not required to state your name and address if you do not desire to do so. Are there any public comments at this time? Hello, Tom.
I'm Marie. Live here in Yreka. There's a few issues. First of all, Oregon Street and Bruce Street is an issue. I talked to the ambulance company, and a gentleman from the ambulance company said, "Can you imagine how cool it would be not to have to stop? Because we have to stop, and there's a line of cars we can't even see, and you know we got to whoop, 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 and lots of times people just don't stop. There needs to be a stop sign there on the Oregon side. Stop Oregon traffic. Let the ambulance go directly to the hospital. Wouldn't that just be a miracle? I think it would. And then another thing is the weeds. I'm noticing, I'm still on the weeds. The weeds, I had just been up to Hiram Page visiting my sister, and the weeds were supposed to, isn't there supposed to be like a mandatory 40 foot?
Mm-hmm.
It's literally 15. We measured it with a tape measure. Literally 15. It's like, okay, so something needs to be done about this seriously. Not just a half attempt. If you are so wealthy that you can own a huge lot, you need to maintain it also. And then also I asked my sister about the other way out of Hiram Page. She said there isn't another way out. There's a 4-wheel driveway that goes up over Greenhorn, but there isn't another. If there is, the manager who manages that place has not told them, and she must not know either. So, you know, fire is a big deal. Reading, you know, it can take Yreka just like it did there. We need to be on this.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, the Hiram Page Road thing, I think that a notice has gone out. And our enforcement officer's not here. Willow was here last week and made a presentation 2 weeks ago about it. And I think that if there are people that have not complied by a certain date, then they get a notice. Is that not correct?
Yeah, we're
And then it's enforced.
I don't know that specific property.
Okay, we'll check into that and let you know. Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the public? We've got a very important person here tonight. It's our Greenhorn Park host. Welcome.
Hello. I'm Rose Baker. You're one of 2 of their new co-hosts at Greenhorn Park, so thank you for having me have a moment to speak to you guys today. On behalf of Chase Bailey and myself, the other co-host, we want to extend our extreme thank you for having this program at the park. It has already improved our lives tremendously, and we've noticed that it's improving the lives of the visitors at the park as well. We've absolutely enjoyed our first 3 weeks. Is it 3 or 2? I don't know, it feels like it's going so fast. And we enjoy doing our duties around the park, and it's been such a pleasure meeting some of our favorite people in Yreka. I do want to also say that we've been coming up with a lot of good ideas. Don't know if any of them will ever be able to be budgeted or afforded, but one of the things we wanted to put on the forefront because we get asked a lot of questions, is to build a community bulletin board, especially right near where our converted bathroom is. We would love to actually put a bulletin board there that would have a comments and suggestion box and a tack board for certain notices that should be aware in the park, and how to reserve a spot in the park. Because we got birthday parties that just pop up, and people will actually reserve spots, and some just come and expect a spot. So we want to just make sure that there's clarity, a way that people can communicate effectively and give us feedback. And again, I want to thank you guys for this opportunity. It's been a pleasure so far. And if you have any questions, I'll take questions
Welcome,
too.
Rose. We're really
Yes,
glad
thank
you
you.
came.
Thank you.
I had suggested that when I first met Rose on her second or third day, I think it was.
Yes.
Did you get that bicycle?
I did.
Good.
Yes, I did
Good.
have a bicycle, and I've been riding it around the trails. It's been really fun. We've got our golf cart now, so we've been riding that as well. You'll see us out.
Wonderful.
Locking up has been pretty easy, and I've even gotten up early enough to unlock a few times. And so it's, again, it's the best backyard I could ask for.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Yes, it is.
And for everyone that may not be aware of it, especially for Rob, Rose is a veteran.
Oh, yes. I'm a disabled veteran, and actually, I just talked to Renee yesterday. I just got given a black lab mix, and I'm now in the process of getting him trained to be my new service animal. I had my
Excellent.
last one for 17 years, and I was
Excellent.
heartbroken when he passed. But now I have a new one,
Good.
and so you'll see him around the park too. His name is Doc.
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 I'll look for Doc. Rose and Doc.
Yes.
What branch?
I was in the U.S. Army. Military
I'll-
intelligence, don't hold it against me.
Navy won't hold it against
Okay, well, my grandparents were Navy, so,
And my father was Air Force.
okay, we're all fit together.
That's right. We're family. Welcome.
Yes,
Thank
thank you.
Any comments from
I
you?
like the idea of the community board there. That's,
Yeah,
that's,
I do
too.
that's actually,
It's a great suggestion.
might have some legs.
So we'll talk to staff about that. Matt Bray isn't here tonight, the Director of Public Works, because he's on vacation, but we'll talk to him when he gets back.
Okay, thank you very much, guys.
Great,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Okay, anyone else? Any other comments from the public? Oh, we have one more. Oh, welcome. Come on down.
Good evening, I'm Tanya Jester.
Hey, Tanya.
My mailing address is 1204 Cedar Street, Yreka. And I wanted to just sort of enter some comments about the second dwelling. I have trouble saying ancillary.
Well, that's the way, so.
Is this
Which
the time for that?
It's item 4.
Oh, would you
Do I
like
have
to
to
wait
wait?
until the item 4?
Do I have to?
Well,
No.
that's, you can say it now, but usually what you do is you listen to the presentation and then you react, or but if you're more comfortable doing it now, you could. You've only got 5 minutes.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Right.
actually have to be somewhere.
Oh,
So,
okay.
but when I heard it was on the agenda, I just wanted to sort of step forward as a real estate broker, but also as a property manager who handles, 44 properties, 95% of them are in the city limit. Not that I currently handle anything that has 2 dwellings that are rented on the same property, but my greatest concern was for the rights of property owners. There are so many things that can happen in your life where you may need to have the use or the ability to rent both properties, the secondary unit and the primary unit. It could just be a great investment, but you might decide that you're gonna go travel and rent it for 6 months. You might get transferred someplace, try out a job for a year, and need to rent it for 6 months. But I guess the main part that came to my attention was, we don't always know what's gonna happen for us. And a lot of parents and older folks might need to go into care for an extended period of time. It might be a year, it might be a year and a half. And if they don't have that ability to rent it as you're making your decisions and as this discussion goes forward, it really does limit their income and being able to take their greatest investment and use it to its highest and best use for them specifically. Something else in my brain. I guess I likened it to when people decide decide to take a second mortgage or a reverse mortgage, you know, that's a decision that a property owner goes for. They take the money, they know that if they leave that home after a certain amount of time, if there's so many days or so many months out of that home, that the bank takes the home. That's something that they are choosing to give up their rights for. But it's not something that's just taken away, if that's, does that make sense?
No, yeah, we were talking about someone who owns property.
Right, so when you own property, you can choose to
Mhm.
take a reverse mortgage, and the bank will pay you. You don't know, let's say the bank will pay you, well, anyway, you can look into that. But then you know, when you're taking that money out, you're choosing to give up some of your rights. That if you have to leave your home for medical reasons or whatever, that home goes to the lender who gave you the loan.
Mhm.
But that's a choice that they've made, as opposed to a choice not being available because of a decision of the council, so,
Okay, thank you,
okay.
Thank
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, anyone else wish to speak on another topic? I would really prefer if you wait until the item to speak, because then it makes sense when you're talking about it. So, anyone else? Okay, then we'll go on to item number 1. Discussion, possible action, consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion unless any member of the council wishes to remove an item for discussion or a member of the audience wishes to comment on an item. The city manager recommends approval of the following consent calendar items. Item number A, approval ratification of payments issued from July 20th through August 2nd, 2018. B, approval of minutes of the meeting held July 19th, 2018. C, waive full text reading of all ordinances on the agenda. Ordinances shall be introduced and adopted by title only. What are the wishes of the council?
I'll make a motion that we accept 1A, B, and C as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Dwayne, seconded by Norm. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2, presentation discussion. Siskiyou County Economic Development Council Annual Report. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
And we have some information up here from you.
Lots.
Lots.
Thank you, councilmen and women, for the opportunity to speak here at the city council tonight. We appreciate your time. We're going to try to keep this brief. I realize that I presented to 3 of 5 of the council members yesterday at Yreka Rotary,
At
so
Rotary.
I will.
And you did a great job.
Thank you. I'll be high level. You guys can read through the end report, I'll just kind of go over a couple highlights. And I'm here with my coworker Nikki, who's going to talk about the Tourism Improvement District. So first and foremost, we are now in year 2 of the Small Business Development Center program. We adopted that program about a year and a half ago. We're really excited to have that because it allows us a lot of resources to small businesses. We have a whole network of counselors at our fingertips should a small business owner need some more in-depth consulting. We also have access to capital and financing, not through our organization, but through our partner organizations through the SBDC. And you can see some of the statistics that we had in terms of serving clients last year. Exciting news for Yreka. I'm sure many of you are aware of this, but the city of Yreka was a lead applicant on a US EPA Brownfields Assessment Grant. We received that grant last year. We are moving forward on it, so that is something that we are very optimistic about. It will allow us to increase our inventory of developable land, essentially. So, you know, in any economy, you need to really have a base foundation for industry to come in. So I think just increasing that inventory is something that's very important and has been outlined in our strategic plan and with our partners. The electric vehicles is coming to a close this coming year. We will have 5 charging stations in Siskiyou County. My coworker Logan wanted to make sure that you all knew that the Carl's Jr. charging station, which is in existence, is going to be expanded. I don't know a lot of the details on the expansion, but he said it's going to take place soon. We are also working on several workforce issues, some more tangible programs that we can bring to businesses, and then also some countywide efforts to address it on a more comprehensive level. Before I turn it over to Nikki, I just wanted to point out the educational handouts that we have provided to you. This was made possible through a grant that we received. As you know, we try to leverage the resources that we have as best as we can. We're really excited to provide these to you. We really wanted to just provide some educational resources for leaders across the county. I know that sometimes economic development is a super esoteric concept and it can be hard to wrap your head around, and so we just wanted, make sure that we are kind of listening and being able to provide information about different sectors in the economy. So what I have in front of you is a retail strategy guide talking about some of the trends in the retail marketplace. The brewery strategy guide, which talks a lot about breweries and what that looks like and what the needs are from their perspective of attracting and retaining breweries. And we also have a guide on economic development for elected officials. We have a forthcoming guide on agritourism, because we know that that's also a growing industry in Siskiyou County, and there's been a lot of growth over the past couple of years. So I will come back another time and give that to you.
Great.
I'm gonna turn it over to Nikki now to talk about.
Great.
Sure.
Hi, Nikki.
Hi, I'm Nikki Brown. I'm the program manager with the EDC for Discover Siskiyou, the Tourism Business Improvement District. And thank you, as Bethany said, for allowing us the chance to speak to you all tonight. I know that a lot of you, as with the EDC update, have received recent updates about the Tourism Improvement District. So I'm happy to answer specific questions that you all might have. I always feel like I could talk about the program for days because there's so much going on. But before I jump into a high-level overview, I wanted to share some of the work, the video work, and then I can talk more about it.
Good, I'm glad you brought it. It's really good. Wow.
Was that duck old enough to drink?
Must have been at Mike and Wanda's.
I think it was pretty old.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't lost on me that you had hot dogs and then you had a dog that looked like it. You tell that camera person that we caught that.
Yeah.
We caught that.
So these videos are the work of Dunsmuir-based photography, videography team Pusher, and we've been fortunate enough to work with them on our team for most of 2018, and they're out every month collecting photo and video assets throughout all of Siskiyou, and we make all of the photo and videos available for community partners to use in their own marketing. So whether these are our stakeholder lodging properties, chambers, private community groups wanting to promote, the region. So it's all available, copyright free. So that's just one thing we wanted to kind of showcase. But I just wanted to give a quick, brief overview of kind of where we're at in the program and what's coming down the pipeline, and then of course take any questions if you all have it. As many of you know, we are just entering the 4th year of our 5-year term before the district is up for renewal, and it's an exciting year. It actually is a big transition year for Discover Siskiyou, in that we are really increasing our local capacity. We've added 2 new staff members to our team, which I'm very excited about, and we're taking on a lot of the direct marketing in-house, so that's very exciting. We are in the process right now of approving our fiscal year marketing budget, so we'll share that, make that publicly available once it's approved. Our campaign has been in the marketplace now for just over a year, which is very exciting, and we run a very robust public relations campaign. We've had coverage for the county in MSN, Travel and Leisure, Outside Magazine, Forbes, and several others, so that continues to be a really successful program. In addition to our social media, website, blog, our influencer campaign, and a lot more coming, so we're really excited about the progress.
I wanted to make something really clear to people that have said, well, we haven't seen these commercials. So the point is not for the local people to see it, it's for outside audiences, right?
Exactly.
For other areas to draw people in.
Yeah,
Correct.
exactly. When we first started the district in 2015, the management committee made the decision to undergo some pretty intensive discovery process, and with that we hired a third-party analyst team, and they did some extensive research on the demographic of our target market, which is obviously not people who are already in Siskiyou County. And so with that, a lot of our campaign is digital right now. We're adding more print, and offline this year, but it's very targeted. So it's not something that we would necessarily see as residents, but we're adding more to that. And we're just in the process of printing a series of rec cards, which are getting reprinted because these are not the quality of the paper, but I'm happy to hand these around. And these will be in the lobbies of all of our lodging properties, of course the chambers, or anybody that wants to carry them. So we're very excited about that. But yeah, absolutely targeted towards a demographic. Also a big focus this year is working really closely with our community partners, just to increase awareness and education about what the campaign's about the goals of the district. And so we're working closely with our chambers. We are having booths at events, throughout the county as we can get to them, and meeting one-on-one with stakeholder groups and kind of developing partnerships that way. So it's been a great transition into our 4th year. And then I also wanted to share that our state destination marketing organization, Visit California, recently finished some of their tourism economic impact analysis on the impacts of tourism throughout California. And they conducted research through a third party, separated by county. And so we were able to get some statistics just for Siskiyou County, which you have in front of you, that talk about the trends in tourism spending and how that's impacted Siskiyou County. And to summarize at least just one point of it, direct travel spending in Siskiyou County since the beginning of the TBID, which is 2015, has increased just under $13 million. And so along with the rest of the state, we're trending up in tourism, despite, I know, some challenging, seasonalities and things that we face, but it is still a really positive light in the economy. So I'm happy to take any questions or, yeah.
Okay.
So how do you track your numbers to come up with that amount? And are these the brochures you're hoping to put in Collier?
Yes, so the second question, yes, and we have about another 6 more down the pipeline, so we're getting very specific with the topics of the brochures. And then for the economic impact reports, those were done through Visit California. They worked with a data analyst company to do all of the research across California. So we didn't control that particular study. They just shared the results with us, which was fantastic that we got to have access to that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Well, I just wanna say thank you for coming and presenting all of this good information. These are for us to keep, but we're going to be giving these back to you, right? I think there's one over
You
there.
need the right parts back.
Right,
Well,
parts.
you know, they're not
They're
supposed to be
just a draft.
perforated or, you know, but
Mhm.
we're getting them reprinted, so they're not, this lower quality.
Yeah, I think there's
I think
more.
I saw these, at
At
Rotary.
Rotary.
Yeah.
They were at Rotary.
We show them and then we take them back.
I was gonna say, those are well-traveled.
They're not supposed to be perforated.
Yes.
but-
Anyway.
Thank
so,
you very
yeah,
much.
It looks great, you guys are doing good work,
Thank
so
you.
thank you. And, good work on the brownfields as well. I don't know how
Yes.
many people are aware of all the good work that's already been done that you helped the city with, like on, Tractor Supply, that was a brownfield. Also out at Bel Campo and fruit growers.
Yeah.
What was,
Wish they
what
were still
stage?
here,
I don't
but-
know. Stage-
At the stage office, no,
I
was
don't
that part of
remember.
it?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, okay.
That was
And also
brownfield
where the
too, yeah, it was
county
huge.
Siskiyou Transportation Offices, so we really appreciate all the good work that you do to prepare,
We don't have,
property.
we have to have more in the pipeline, so.
Right, yeah, we
Good.
need more, so great, good work, good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next item on the agenda, item number 3, this is exciting too. So approve appointment of Charles Faulkner, did I pronounce that correctly? To the Yreka Volunteer Fire Department, so welcome. Chief Derry, you wanna come down?
Sure.
Charles?
Good evening, Madam Mayor,
Good
members of
evening.
council, personnel. Tonight, I want to present to you Mr. Chuck Faulkner. Chuck comes back to us after a little hiatus. He was in for 7 to 8 years and was a lieutenant, training officer prior to his departure, but here recently came to me and says, I want to get back in. And I was like,
Great.
let's go, because we need experienced folks, and Chuck is one of those. So we're excited to have him back. And that's all I can say about Chuck, but he's dedicated, dependable, trustworthy, all the things you look for in a volunteer. So
Great.
glad to have him back.
Great, well, welcome back, Chuck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate your
Pleasure to be back.
dedication and your volunteerism,
Yes.
we do appreciate it. I think I saw you at the Christmas party at the fire hall.
Mhm.
Yes, you were there.
Out and about amongst everything else I do.
Yes, well, welcome. Are we gonna do a swearing in thing tonight, Liz?
Do a formal action first.
Oh,
Yes.
Oh, that's
okay.
true.
And you
Item
put us
number
behind,
3.
you made us a tough act to follow, though, I have to say.
Yeah. Do you have any
We
brochures?
have some really nice brochures, Jerry, where's your brochure?
Doing a great job.
Okay, we do have a nice, application here from Chuck. So, do I have a motion from
I'll
the
make a
council?
motion.
We approve the appointment of Charles Faulkner to the Yreka Volunteer Fire Department.
Okay,
And I'll
I
second.
second, I have to recuse, but,
okay.
but it's not by choice.
It's because you're a fireman,
Correct.
you're a volunteer fireman.
If you're recusing, I really wouldn't second.
What?
He
You did?
I didn't.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah,
He's
Yeah,
no.
that doesn't
I'm just apologizing to Chuck
We have a
because it's like,
motion and a second.
you're all in as far as I'm
Well,
concerned.
Well, I say recusal. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And a recusal. Okay, we have 4 ayes and 1 person who recused himself. Thank you and welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Now do we get to swear him in, Liz?
You see guys bring him around and take him out from the middle and shake his hand and then come back.
Okay. Liz will tell you what to do. She tells all of us what to do.
I guess we're right in front of them.
You might want to look up at the camera. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I state your name.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California.
and the Constitution of the State of California.
That I take this obligation freely,
That I take this obligation
and I
freely.
jumped ahead on your, so we back up amendments a step.
Oops.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
One more time.
Against all enemies,
Against all enemies.
Foreign and domestic. that I will bear true faith and allegiance
That I will bear truth, faith, and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California.
and the Constitution of the State of California.
That I take this obligation freely
That I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservations
or purpose of evasion.
or purpose of evasion.
and that I will well and faithfully
that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome aboard. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome aboard.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Wonderful. Okay, and we'll be seeing you again, right? And
Well,
Chief,
hopefully not anywhere.
well,
Yeah.
not
Home
necessarily,
visits.
no.
No
You
home
don't-
visits.
No,
I think
no
they were
home
having a
visits.
competition on trying to see who's the funniest.
Chuck wins. That was pretty good.
Good job, Chuck.
So that brings us up to approximately 28 members.
Excellent.
And got a few more that are interested, and I've got to make some phone calls and have some interviews, and we'll
That's
probably
great.
be seeing you soon, so. Yeah,
That's
the
great.
interest is, even though the banner's been down for a little bit, because you gotta repair it, but
Right.
still, the interest is still
And
there, I'm
we'll-
getting
and-
calls.
So from 19 to 28, that's excellent.
Impressive.
In just, what, 6 months,
Yeah.
7 months?
Yeah,
Very
it's
good.
been great, can't tell you how happy we are.
That's
Helps
wonderful.
all of us.
That's great. Well, thank you for volunteering, and
Thank you.
also thank you, Chief. We
Bet.
really appreciate
Thank you
all
for
your
having
good
us.
work.
All right.
Thank you. Okay, that takes us to item number 4, discussion, possible action. Municipal code amendments. Proposed amendments include revisions to revised Title 16 zoning to include cottage food operations, revised Title 16 zoning to include recent state law requirements regarding accessory dwelling units, and revised Title 16 zoning to include temporary use permits. So, the staff permit, the staff report, so do we have the staff report now?
Yes, we could.
So, Mr. City Manager, would you like to give us your staff report?
Well, this is going to be a little shorter staff report because you've seen this a couple of times. So
Yes, we have.
this covers a variety of things within the planning and zoning code to bring ourselves into compliance with state law. Such things as the cottage food laws have changed, and so we're trying to update that.
The state laws. right?
State laws, right. Did I say something else? Okay.
No, no, you didn't. I just
Okay.
wanted to clarify that.
Yes.
Because I know I had some questions. I
Right.
asked her.
So, we've gone through a number of different sections. I know that the one that we're specifically bringing back tonight is about the accessory dwelling units, where actually the parts that we're changing don't have anything to do with what the conversation was. The conversation had to do with whether or not to continue to require, because that's what in our ordinance currently, to have one or the other of the units occupied by an owner occupant if an accessory dwelling unit is placed on a property. And then, as we talked about before, the state has basically cleared a lot of the field in terms of what requirements we can put on those accessory dwelling units, because they're looking at it as a matter of statewide concern, and they're bigger than us. So, anyway.
And they control our money.
And they control our money. So there are some, there's 3 options in here. And I'll let the city attorney, actually, you wanna just take the 3 options first, or you wanna keep
Mr.
going?
Hinman.
Sure, the options that seem to be under contention by the council was, and we had a split 2-2 vote and 1 undecided basically, there was an argument made by a member of the public that if it was owner occupied, what about if somebody closely related to the owner was there? Wasn't that enough supervision? And so we took that idea and expanded that in the base owner-occupied ordinance, so that it could be grandparents or children or even stepchildren and that sort of thing, to substitute for the owner, assuming that that person would be giving the same amount of attention to the oversight of the other residents. And then the second version simply removes the ownership requirement and allows basically 2 rentals to occur on a single family dwelling unit. and without any other revisions. The third version is one where I attempted to, if the council was disposed towards deleting the owner-occupied requirement that currently exists, I attempted to identify what common problems in the neighborhood might be, like noise and too many occupants and traffic and things like that, and put some more teeth in the code for enforcement if there was a problem with the property. So basically you've got an expanded ownership loosening up. You've got entire deletion of ownership, and you've got one that attempts to, if you delete the ownership, attempts to deal with, mitigate some of the planning problems for your consideration.
And I also wanted to mention that you did ask us to bring back some information regarding what other communities are doing, and then also what the what the planners were talking about. So we talked to our planner, and it was basically the same kind of thing that we brought to you before, which is that the reason why some cities have the owner-occupied as part of their rules, like we do currently, is to attempt to stabilize neighborhoods. It's basically the concept that if you're an owner-occupant, that you care more, in general, there are exceptions, than if you just had it be rentals. And the other thing is that there's a sort of a random selection of 25 jurisdictions that the planner went through and was able to get from the state, and it's about 50-50. I think that the owner-occupant is 56%, the not having an owner-occupied thing was 44%. That's basically 50-50 when you're doing a
Which was a surprise to me, because on the league site and when I was researching the different ordinances, you know, I was focusing on larger cities, and all the larger cities retain the owner-occupied, and then I was surprised to see that these small cities that they picked had a lot of them had gotten rid of it.
So my question, that is.
Hold on a second, I think Norm had his hand up,
I'm
and
sorry.
then you. Okay, Norm.
Okay, well, when I looked at the difference in the various cities, I noticed Mount Shasta, Redding, and Shasta County all have no owner occupancy requirement, and that's our local communities. So, I mean, that's my feeling, that we should do it without the owner occupancy required. So, I'm in favor of item 2 or item 3.
2. 3 would be too hard to monitor and enforce. Oh, sorry.
And then Dwayne.
Well, my
And then
question
Debbie.
too is on this, so we have Mount Shasta, but I don't see Weed, I don't see our hub of our, you know, all of our Siskiyou County, I don't see any of that. I don't know, do we have any numbers on that, or not numbers, but what the statistics?
I don't think the county has this out in the county areas, you mean?
Well, the
outside?
county also, yeah, because they're showing Shasta County.
Yeah.
They're not showing Siskiyou County, they're not
Siskiyou
actually
doesn't
showing
have it.
Weed, we're not showing Dunsmuir, we're not showing anybody else either, as far as that goes.
I don't think they have, one of these ordinances.
Oh, really?
I don't think so, do they?
I would imagine.
I don't know what the status is of their ordinances. What we asked them was for, you know, what are cities generally doing? And he used the database that he had. He was trying to be efficient with our funds, and so he grabbed a way that he could do it easily. I think they're on the state website or HCD's website or something. I'm not sure how he got them. So it wasn't designed to be
Steve.
a full. It was
Just a minute, we have some input
If you'll
from
notice at the
above.
top of the memorandum, this is from a list of random selection of 25 jurisdictions that have submitted a revised ADU. So a lot of the jurisdictions haven't revised their ADU ordinance, just like we have. So
Right.
the information's not out there until they've turned it in.
And for those of you who are not aware of the voice, that was Liz Casson, our city clerk. Thank you, Liz. Usually she tells us from down here. Okay, any other questions, Debbie?
No, I agree with Norm. I think that 2 is our best option for our community, and in the field from
I,
the,
I have a comment.
Okay,
I have
Rob.
a question.
Rob?
So, just because other communities do number two, that's not enough for me. I mean, do you really want this community to be like those communities? How good are those communities? I mean, what you're doing is you're protecting someone's property rights. When you vote for two, you're protecting someone's anticipated property rights. The current one, and the reason why people bought their properties now, is based on the fact that you can't do this. Okay, that people do this now, they're not supposed to. Okay, so, I mean, for me, you know, it seems to me that I would want number one. I certainly wouldn't want number two. I'm not going for a free-for-all. I don't want, just because some other community does that, that's not enough for me. You know, I wanna protect my street. I like the neighborhood the way it is. I like it where it's single-family dwelling. You know, if there is a mother-in-law cottage or something like that, it's for, you know, the teenage kid who's you're trying to get the music out of your house or something. I mean, it's a family member. You know, I could see where we would do version one, where you would do it for extended family members, as an owner occupant. I could live with that, but, complete free-for-all with number two, I would seriously have a problem with that, and I would encourage the council to go with number one, and not number two, and then you can always, you know, buy time later on if you wanted to see a whole bunch of pushback. But remember, the people that have come here and the people that have spoken to you are the people who are either out of compliance already, or it's a realtor who wants to sell property based on the fact that you could do this, okay? Those aren't the owners, that's not the majority people in Yreka, all right? And so I don't, you know, you're making these decisions for all these other people, and yeah, okay, maybe they could be here, that's all true. You know, but we all, you know, I mean, there's countless examples of people not being here where we make a decision and it turns out that you impacted a lot of different people inappropriately. And this particular one has always been this way. You know, version one will simply change it to where you're allowing an extended family member. I think that's fair. I think that's fair. But if you do version two, you're saying you don't have to be around. You know, you can go ahead and do a second one on that property. You can open it up. I mean, that's not what you have now. And so you vote for number two, and you're voting for something that's completely, who knows what it is. I don't see a whole bunch of people here other than realtor or people out of compliance that were saying we want version two.
And so can I say something in conjunction to that? Tanya Jester made a good point on the aspect of, say, somebody an elderly person goes into a home for an extended period of time and wants to be able to come back to their house, but they cannot afford to just have their house sitting vacant. So now they will, if they're renting it out and so they can make the payments on that, and now they would be out of compliance on that, so they can't do that, and they could possibly lose their house. So that's, something we need to think about too, in conjunction to that we don't necessarily want to.
How many
people, you know?
How many people are like that? I mean, I can give an example, an extreme example for anything.
Oh, yeah.
How many people are like that? That's an unfortunate situation, but I'm not gonna change, I'm not gonna vote for this to change this law for that one extreme situation.
Right.
It's an unfortunate situation, I'll grant you that. And maybe they should have planned better doing other things, okay? And maybe one day I'll be in that position and I'll wish, but that's not everybody, okay? I mean, it's a good Samaritan thing, and I appreciate the kindness of your heart, you know, but that's not what we're about. We're not about, you know, scooping up all the extreme examples. That's a good example, but that's not good enough to change it for everybody and all the property rights that people have now when they bought that piece of property. I mean, we currently don't have this. You're changing the layout of this town by doing this.
I agree, it could change the makeup of the town, and I do agree with Rob. And I don't know how many of you have heard from constituents. I have had a number of phone calls and emails from people that are concerned exactly about what Rob was talking about, changing the makeup of our communities, increasing noise level potentially, maybe having someone living in a home that's not gonna take as good care of it as the owner would. So I have had quite a few phone calls from people who are concerned. And as Rob said, this is something that's been we've had this in our system for how many years? How long has this ordinance been around where we've required owner occupancy? And the people that have bought these properties bought them with the knowledge that there was an owner occupancy requirement on there.
Do they really, I mean, have they really been notified that
Oh,
they,
yes.
they
Oh,
actually
yes.
know that?
Yes. When you buy the property, you are notified. That's true. That goes through the title company, I believe. The gentleman, no?
No, not now.
I
The
didn't think
ordinance
so.
we have now does not have a deed restriction,
Oh, it doesn't.
so nobody knows.
Okay.
But it is
I
part of the
take that
zoning
back.
statute.
It's part of the zoning statute.
Well,
but
that
I
one
do know-
gentleman that was
He's
here.
He's here right now.
I mean, you knew.
I didn't register, but when times, I have an interesting point of view.
Would you like to come down?
Sure.
Okay, come on down and identify yourself and,
My name is Mark Burnett. I presented, actually, a few times before, not just on this issue, but other issues. I'm with the Siskiyou County Schools. I think a reality check might be an interesting illumination. I like doing research, so I'm lobbying you, and I'm gonna give you the benefit of some of the stuff I looked at online. There's a reality check about Yreka, and maybe you already know this, but I got some information from the U.S. Census, Bureau of Census, and it's called Quick Facts. I went online. Of the living units in Yreka, 52% are owner-occupied, homeowner-occupied. 48% are rentals. So of all the living units in Yreka, in other words, the population, it's a working, and also the median income that came up in 2016 was $19,959. It's a working class town, and about half the folks in Yreka rent. So the concept and the underlying premise I hear about what you're talking about here is that somehow the notion is that if you have people with more rentals than you do ADUs and you allow them, there's going to be some kind of negative effect. Well, what I'm saying is ADUs are a handful of folks. What's the justification for singling out a very, very small, they already have restrictions on lot size. Are you really going to make a dent in what you're concerned about by focusing on this minority when half the town is already rentals? Half the living units are already, and what about the notion of, we're focusing, you mentioned, on my street, et cetera. I remember this came up before last time I spoke. What about the other half of the population of Yreka that are the have-nots who rent? Is local government and government in general supposed to be for all the people? What about the focus on the folks who are just starting out, some young couple who can't afford to own? They want to rent. Right now, there's a severe housing shortage in the area. I know indirectly of folks who are living in other communities because they cannot find a place to live in Yreka to rent. They're commuting from Weed and anecdotally coming to Yreka to work because they have a job here and they're spending their shopping money elsewhere outside of Yreka. Second tier, just quick, I'll be brief. So that's my point about the notion about there's somehow this underlying negative effect of having folks who don't own, in the community, they're gonna mess up neighborhood. Hey, half the town's already rentals. So I contacted also CAR, the California Association of Realtors in Sacramento, the headquarters, and I had a long conversation with somebody. They gave me I emailed this actually to 3 of the council members, and what it is California legislative information. It's Senate Bill 1069, which took effect January 1st, 2017. I'll just read it quickly. The legislature finds and declares, it's a statement of policy or intent from the California State Legislature. The California State Legislature finds and declares the following. Accessory dwelling units are a valuable form of housing in California. Accessory dwelling units provide housing for family members, students, the elderly, in-home health care, providers, the disabled, and others at below market prices within existing neighborhoods. Homeowners who create accessory dwelling units benefit from added income and the increased sense of security. Allowing accessory dwelling units in single-family or multifamily residential zones provides additional rental housing stock in California. California faces a severe housing crisis. The state is falling far short in meeting current and future housing demand with serious consequences for the state's economy. Our ability to green infill consistent with state greenhouse gas reduction goals and the well-being of our citizens, particularly lower and middle income earners, Yreka. Accessory dwelling units offer lower cost housing to meet the needs of existing and future residents within existing neighborhoods while respecting architectural character. Accessory dwellings are therefore an essential component of California's housing supply. Last point, which is in direct contrast to what I think the proposal, again, a vote to keep the owner occupancy, is the intent of the legislature that an accessory dwelling unit ordinance adopted by a local agency has the effect of providing for the creation of accessory dwelling units, and the provisions in this ordinance relating to matters including lot size, unit size, other requirements, are not so arbitrary, excessive, or burdensome as to unreasonably restrict the ability of homeowners to create accessory dwelling units in zones, etc. So in other words, it's what the Senate bill, the legislature talked about here was, don't mess with creating obstacles. We want to incentivize you, local communities, to do this. Why? Because there's a housing shortage, and there are low-income folks around. They want people to do this. And again, the concept of the notion that it's going to mess up neighborhoods. Another factoid from Carr, the gal I talked to in Sacramento. According to the California Association of Realtors, they've done long research on this. What improves neighborhoods? Well, it's not punitive measures, it's not restrictions. You know what it is? It's sales. It's called the multiplier effect. There's also something called the Phillips curve. It's gobbledygook in economic theory, wherein when folks come in and buy easily, values of property goes up and neighborhoods improve from sales. Well, what you do by putting on restrictions that you can only sell to owner occupancy is you're inhibiting sales. So in other words, what I'm arguing here and what the Carr is saying, if you want to improve neighborhoods in local communities, promote sales, promote the values of properties going up, and neighborhoods will improve. It seems to me that keeping this restriction is going opposite to what should be done here. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so I have a comment on all of that.
Okay.
Okay, so you heard from someone who is obviously biased. You heard from someone who has presented you information that was collected and categorized by a realty association. A realty association would like nothing more than to sell. Okay, so they're somewhat biased. You see a bill presented, okay, that's probably lobbied very hard and with a lot of money pushing it from realtor organizations. All right, so I just want to take the cloud away, take the veil away, and see what's going on. Okay, you've heard some statistics that were specific, some statistics that were very generalized. Generalized statistics was about how there's a shortage of homes, a shortage of places for people of low socioeconomic status. I didn't hear any specific statistic regarding Yreka. I've never heard a complaint that someone couldn't find something here. I don't know about someone going to Weed and getting a house in Weed. Maybe they wanted a very large house, and that's not available here.
Well, there's a severe shortage of houses in Weed. I know people who live in Weed.
Well, yeah, you know,
Theirs
so
is worse.
that may be Weed. So I'm sorry, but
Okay.
so my point with that is, and then also half the town are rentals here. So what? That's fine. Half the town are rentals. I mean, what's the point about that? I don't have a problem with someone buying a home here for rental property. I have a problem with someone buying a home here, adding another unit, and then having 2 rental properties when that wasn't what any of the corresponding neighbors had in mind.
I'd like to just make a comment too.
Okay, hold on just a second, Norm, and then Dwayne.
Okay.
He raised his hand
I
about
didn't
5
see.
minutes ago.
We still got public want to talk, I'll wait till the public's through.
Oh, okay. Did you wanna?
I'll make a comment, real quick
Okay.
comment. For starters, my very first house that I lived in was an ADU here in Yreka. It wasn't legal probably, but that's okay. But that was the only thing I could afford to actually have, and that was actually an ADU. I was fresh out of high school and working at the parts store, and that's the only thing I can afford. And as far as shortage in Yreka, there is a shortage in Yreka as far as low income or affordable housing, I should say, excuse me. I know that firsthand, cause I know I have employees that are looking for places to live in this town. I know one that had to move out to Shastina because he couldn't find anything affordable in this town, so I know there is definitely a shortage in this town, but there again, like what your the statement is very valid. I'm not trying to deny the statement that yes, there is a precedence that we've already established this, and we do need to acknowledge that too. So it's a very fine line, and it's interesting to see what the, more the public is voicing on.
It is.
So
So you're gonna wait?
public
Okay,
speak.
Don Marie.
Okay, Don Marie Autry, I live here in Yreka. When I tried to move here to Yreka, I could not find a place to rent. I did have to find a place with another housing on it. And not every landlord is crazy, okay? Not every person is crazy. But this woman was so nuts that she made me get baptized in her church, convert to her religion, or I couldn't live there. I couldn't find anywhere else to live. And then she tried to make me marry my roommate who was gay, who I really did not want to marry, to live there. So there are absolutely crazy people, and you give them power.
I'm
And
sorry, why are you directing it to me?
because you say that there isn't places to find, I mean that you don't know of anyone who can't find a place. You can't find a place here to rent. And when you do, you better make sure that your landlord's not crazy.
I don't have any control over that.
No, I know, but if you're making them owner occupancy, she was an owner and she had to live there. So I had to be baptized and converted to her religion in order to rent her house.
Okay,
That's all I'm saying.
okay.
Okay, thank you, Don Marie. Corey, did you have something?
Yeah. I guess everybody knows me, Corey Middleton, I'm 4 West Minor Street. Well, I am a realtor, broker associate here in town, so I'll speak on 2 sides. I'll speak on the personal side of, I do have friends that make under $25,000 a year in this town. And the average price is $1,100 a month to find a rental. They can't find anywhere. So a lot of them have been looking at second dwellings, they rent for $650. Yeah, some have been owner occupied, some haven't. So, and we are in a terrible housing shortage here, terrible. Our prices are driven up, the landlords know it, our sellers know it, they're holding to the fire. And we have, I think, on the selling side, we have 19 homes on the market in the city of Yreka. And our rentals go quick. When people tell me, oh, I'm looking for some for $800, we laugh at them. That's sad. That you cannot find a rental for $800 a month in the town of Yreka. So they are going to weed because they have 600, 650 studios. We don't have those here. So I just think, I don't know, putting restrictions on, if you buy in a CC&R, I have a condo up in Sierra Vista, that I rent out, there's rules that come with it. I'm not restricted to rent it, but there's rules saying what that property owner can do with it. I think when people buy a property for rental, they want to have that right to rent it out, whether they have 2 homes on it, 3 homes on it, or whatever. It's no difference from people living up here on Shadow Lane that live across from duplexes. That's 2 units. Yeah, that's maybe zoned, but that's 2 units. Yeah, maybe they know what they're gonna get themselves into.
So I can't help it, you keep looking at me, so here's the deal.
Well, you made a lot of negatives, so I'm looking at you.
Okay, but watch the logic behind your statement. You say you have a townhome with CC&Rs and there are rules, and so people have to follow those rules, right?
That's a CC&R.
So, okay, so here you have already an ordinance on the books, and people have to follow those rules. So you're saying it's okay to break these rules.
No, I'm not
But if
saying
you have a
that.
townhome in a nice townhome somewhere else, you gotta follow those rules. I just wanna point out your logic
No,
here.
I'm gonna go back to that point, because when we get our deed restrictions, and we get a copy of those CC&Rs, I have sold homes in the city of Yreka for many years, and it has 2 homes on it. There is not anything on the deed saying that this home has to be owner occupied.
I hope you have, insurance.
Well, it's been several years since I sold one of those, so it's all
I'm just
gone
saying,
now.
I hope you.
But they don't have it, I mean,
Where's the disclosure? Who's responsible for the disclosure?
disclosure from what?
2 homes.
That has 2 homes on it, but
Yeah.
it doesn't say, if someone says, the city ordinance, that this is city ordinance,
Yeah.
and no one knew there wasn't a deed
I
restriction.
mean, did you sell the home saying, hey,
I have
both of these are good for rental?
What's that?
Did
They
you
were already
sell?
currently in use by non-owner occupied.
All right.
They have been for years.
All right.
They have been for years. And
Look at the
going
TV
back to the,
camera.
going back to the fact that say, oh, it's gonna change my neighborhood, I live on my quiet street, you know, you get two people, it doesn't make a difference if you live next to a single family home. Do you think they're not gonna rent out to 8 or 9 people because they can't afford the home? They're allowed so many people per bedroom.
Right.
So it's like saying, oh, well, we only want 2 people in there, that's against the law. So somebody can, your neighbor can rent their house out to and have 9 people live in that 3-bedroom house. So they're just, you know, I just think it's crazy to say, oh, this is gonna change this. I don't think it's gonna change anything. I think you taking away rentals and homeowners' rights, I think it takes away an already, you know, bad shortage of rentals. And, you know, making it hard for people who buy property and have that right too.
Thank you, Courtney. Council. You're so patient. He is very
One more
patient.
person.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ty.
Lorenzo Love, Anderson Street. I'm not a property owner, I'm not a realtor. I'm one of these low-class, troublemaking renters. I know how tight the rental market is here. I lived in the place I live, a duplex, for over 20 years. If I have to move from there, it'll be out of this city because there is no affordable rentals in this town. You're driving people away with laws like this. You have a one-size-fit-all NIMBY law. This doesn't make sense in the current market, in the current conditions. And you have a planning commission. What's the planning commission doing? Shouldn't they be deciding this on a case-by-case basis? Instead of trying to make a law that just covers everything in the world? Let the planning commission look at it. If it's too small of a lot to support 2 buildings, then you shouldn't have that. But if you have a huge lot, why can't you build another house and rent it out? It just doesn't, it's not in my backyard. That's what he's talking about. He doesn't want it in his street. But you have to look at the 48% of the city at rents, who are going to be leaving if they don't have a place to rent. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorenzo.
Okay, I've got experience since I was a landlord of a house with an accessory dwelling unit in a different county. And I had that for a number of years. At one point, I had to evict the tenant in the accessory dwelling unit for bad behavior. So, I mean, you do have to enforce it. I was an absentee landlord, but I knew what was going on because I was around the property enough. So, I mean, I support version 3 because I think we should have some characteristics in there that limit problems. So I'd like to make a motion that we approve version 3 of this ordinance.
And I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve version 3. Any discussion, questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
No. Okay, motion carries.
Now you have to find version 3.
You won.
It's the last one.
Okay, now, to our attorney, do we have to do anything further? Is it all covered now?
What you have done is selected, I'm assuming what the motion was, is that you have read the ordinance by title, and you have passed the part of the version of the ordinance which contains version 3 as to accessory dwelling units, and passed it to the next meeting for possible adoption.
Right.
Thank you. Just making sure.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so, item number 5. Discussion possible action, adopt resolution pursuant to Government Code Section 21-156, determining the industrial disability of employee Nicholas Friedman.
Hey, members of the council, our HR coordinator is going to present this.
I'm Renee Hoisington, the Human Resources Coordinator for the City of Yreka. The city, on behalf of Officer Nicholas Frieden, has filed an industrial disability retirement application for an injury he has sustained related to his employment. Based on competent medical opinion, it has been determined that Officer Frieden can no longer perform the essential functions of a police officer. According to CalPERS, or the California Public Employees Retirement System, the governing body of a safety member who applies for a disability retirement must make a determination of the member's disability. That would be the council. The included resolution contains statements and findings that are required by CalPERS to make this determination. The requested action is to approve the industrial disability retirement application of Officer Nicholas Frieden effective August 31st, 2018, and adopt the attached resolution as your findings and determinations pertaining to his industrial disability retirement application. We would also like to sincerely thank Officer Frieden for his service to the city and our citizens.
Absolutely, thank you. Do I have a motion or discussion?
I'll make a motion that we adopt the resolution pursuant to Government Code Section 21156 and determine the industrial disability of employee Nicholas Frieden.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, motion carries.
Are you gonna do the certificate at some point?
Yes, we
After-
do need to have a
after.
certificate of appreciation.
We talked about doing that in the following meeting.
We have
So
after
that'll be the
meeting.
next
Okay,
meeting.
next, okay, thank you.
If Officer Frieden could be here
Thank you.
for the next meeting, that would be
Yeah.
great.
If you would like to, yeah.
Okay. Alrighty, okay, city manager and staff reports.
Just wanted to mention really two things. One is that if you've noticed, there are some streets you can't drive down, and that's for a good
I
reason.
noticed, yeah.
Obviously, North Oregon, that's been the case for a little while because of that major project, but we're doing a lot of chip sealing in various areas of town.
And it looks great.
It does. We're excited to get that on to preserve the streets and so on, and I think there's a few more days of it that are happening now. There's always a little bit of bumps in the road getting all of, not intended, but.
No more bumps in the road.
I think I do that inadvertently, but anyway, that project's proceeding very well, and we're excited about that. The other thing I wanted to let you know is that we are continuing, we had a lot of discussion about weed abatement at the last meeting, and we are continuing to work with property owners to get those fixed. Some of them have been, some of them are in process, and on a daily basis, we're talking to owners and in some cases contractors to try to match them up to make sure that they can do it. We are allowing contractors to start very early in the morning. In other words, they may wake you up simply because the fire danger this time of year is, we'll try anyway. The fire danger is such that if you do it earlier in the morning, so we are allowing them to do it earlier than normally what we would allow things to happen, simply so that we can balance the need to get it done with having as low fire danger as possible. Some of them have water trucks and other things, so.
Have you gotten calls, complaints?
Well, we did, remember on the North Oregon one, when they were working on the sewer, we had some complaints about that. That was at night and early in the morning. Do you not remember?
I was one of them. I was like, it's like, what is that noise? And my wife says, well, call and see what's going on, you know? It's like 1 in the morning and I called.
Nobody answered, right?
No, dispatch was really nice. They answered and they noted. Well, I said, okay, well, I guess I know who to talk to.
Talk to the chief.
But the reason I was told, and then you can correct me, is that they needed a point in time where the sewers were at the least use. And unfortunately, the least use was that.
1 in the morning.
Correct.
Yeah.
That was when they were doing the work. Some of the noise was actually related to repairing a vehicle so they could keep doing it. So there was a mechanic out working in the middle of the night,
Right.
doing something out there so they could keep.
And I
it.
guess it was quite a bit of noise.
I
I got 2 personal phone
Yeah,
calls on that.
I
Not
understand.
at 1 in
So-
the morning, but the next morning.
So most of the time it was fairly quiet, but anyway. And in answer to your question about have we gotten some complaints, my understanding is that I haven't gotten any complaints, but I've been on vacation. My understanding, we did get a couple of complaints, and when we explained what was going on and why, it was like, oh, okay, that's good, we like that.
Okay,
So,
yeah.
but it is one of those things where there's a balance there. That was what I had today.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Are we on Oregon Street, are we on track time-wise? Cause I know we're getting close to school and time and everything else, and I know we said it was gonna roll into school time, I realize
Right,
that.
it will
Do you
roll
know if
into-
everything is still on track?
The last that I've heard that we're still on track, but I haven't checked this week, so. I know, boy, they've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, there's still a lot of work to do, yeah.
Well, it's still just the 1st of August, so that's
Yeah.
good, or 2nd of August, sorry. I'm at time warp. I know they're working very hard to make that happen, and they have some goals, so.
I was just gonna comment, it's gonna be in the newsletter, kind of reminding people with back to school that there's a lot of construction going on, so plan your routes or give yourself a little more time in the newsletter.
I just should mention, I was on vacation last week and went up to a couple of states north of us, and there was construction everywhere.
Everywhere.
It is amazing how much
Every
construction
bridge you go
is
across.
out there, and, sometimes you get to park and see it up close and personal because of the traffic problems, but
Not help if
anyway.
you have to go down on the freeway and down around Mount Shasta right now, it's like, oh my gosh, I got jobs upon jobs there, and it is crazy to try to get through there.
So we're not alone.
No, and it's good,
Yeah, we're making
needs to
some,
be done, for sure.
Okay, great. Anything else?
So now I'm really done. Yes.
Now you're really done.
Yeah.
Okay, so, did we have any other department heads that were going to be giving us
Presenting
a
anything?
report? No.
Not unless they
I
jump
see
up
the
right now.
chief is here. Police building?
He's
Is
like,
the
no.
police building on schedule?
Yes, that's a good question.
It looks great. It's coming right along.
Starting with siding, I see.
Yeah, we went through it today, they're doing very well, and they're still ahead of schedule, actually.
Awesome.
Great.
Yeah.
Wonderful. That's
Did you do your decorating?
Not yet.
I'm not much of an interior guy.
Okay, so, Dwayne, would you like to give a
Not
council
much to-
member report?
Not much to say, it's just been, as far as that goes, busy, and the smoke is
Wow.
crazy when you're trying to work in it. And
Yeah.
it definitely puts a toll on any type of outdoor exercise, for sure. And, well, that's about it, we just need to keep in mind that next week is Fair Week, so that should be good, and hopefully we pray for the smoke to clear so we can have an enjoyable time. And this year, I don't actually have a booth at the fair, first time in years,
Oh.
so I can actually go to the fair to enjoy it for a change instead of work it from 10 to 10 every day, so it'll be nice to enjoy it for a change.
Yeah.
And eat the food and not have to scarf it down while you're talking to potential customers.
Right. Okay, thank you. Councilmember Pacheco, do you have a council member report? Yes, you do.
It's been a lot of fun being in Yreka the past couple of weeks.
And
It's
you're
my last
promoting
council
masks.
report. Yeah, so actually for people who are sensitive, you do need to be careful what kind of mask you buy. This is an N95 mask. It's the mask that's recommended. You can't just take a regular mask that you buy. Unfortunately, I wish that were true. You do need to buy something like this. It says N95 on it. So anyway, I had to go online for this one.
Really?
I mean, I tried locally. Everything was gone. I even went up to Home Depot going that way, and they didn't even have any. So it's bad north, it's bad south. This was the first day that I could see the hills.
I know,
Yeah.
and it's rolling in right now, you can barely see the hills, it's coming back.
Keep in mind when you wear those masks, if you're not clean
Facial hair,
shaving,
it
that
doesn't seal.
they don't seal,
Yeah.
so they don't do any good.
So you can't run. Okay, Norm.
So I would like to make a final statement. Unfortunately, the gentleman left. We have one gentleman still here. So no hard feelings. I tried my best to put my best foot forward on my position.
Went down in flames, I'm okay with that. I'm gonna go forward with whatever version 3 is. So there you have it.
Right, absolutely.
Can I
That's
add
what
to
we
that,
do.
that that's what this is about, is we need all the different viewpoints. I wish the public would get more involved in
Right.
everything, so we could make our decisions
Right.
easier.
Hear both
Instead
sides.
of having to go, okay, this is what we deal with, and this is all we hear is just a few individuals, so when we have to voice our own opinion on how we feel, it's better to have the public making their expressions on this instead of us doing it. So.
Right, and we do appreciate that.
That's how
Yes,
we
we do.
serve the people we listen to.
That's
Yep.
exactly right. That's why I mentioned all those phone calls.
Exactly.
Okay, all right.
Okay, I've been to the Fire Safe Council, and there's a fuel reduction project, both the Craggy project and the project on private land between the forest and the city. And there's some sample letters that would go to the ranger districts and stuff like that, and I'm hoping that the mayor will sign one letter, and the city, either the city manager or the fire chief, sign another letter supporting that, because we need all this where we can get this project going. The funds have been approved, according to Patty Graham from the forest manager. So, I mean, that's important that we get this done.
There's a lot of grant money in that.
Yeah.
It's not just Forest Service money, there's some state funds in that too.
Yeah.
Great. And I have full intention of signing a letter with hopefully with the support of all the council members. I think it's a good project. It's an excellent project. And the young lady that was here presenting for EDC, her husband works for the Forest Service, and that's his project.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Bethany Muller's.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna miss the next Fire Safe Council meeting, but if the mayor's gonna go, so I'm gonna be on vacation for 2.5 weeks after our next council meeting. So.
Okay, you're gonna be doing a lot of driving.
A lot of driving, going to Yellowstone and Mount
nice.
Rushmore and Minnesota to see a baseball game.
Oh, awesome. Great. Sounds like fun. Be
Yeah.
safe.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll get out of the smoke.
That's-
Yeah.
I hope.
That's the whole thing. Well, since our last meeting, which was on the 19th.
Don't forget me.
I know,
Oh,
like-
I'm sorry.
I'm like, poor
Madam
Deb.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I'll make it
Deborah.
brief.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No problem. I know where you live.
Yeah, you do.
Okay, two things. I spoke with Lisa Nixon at an event, and she mentioned she had mailed a letter to the city, and I don't remember
On
seeing
what?
on us having a discussion regarding the dams and the position, the options, if we're on the same page,
No,
if
there
there's
was
anything.
no letter. There was a phone call and there was an email, but it wasn't a legal letter. Not to my knowledge,
Okay.
unless it went to somebody
Okay,
else.
let me add to that, then. She assumed that the council had seen her correspondence,
No.
but she referred to it as a letter.
Okay.
And so I said I would follow up on it, so if there's any information that she
No,
assumes.
it was a request to the water committee and our attorney and city manager, so we
Okay.
can probably talk about that in closed session.
Okay, not a problem. She thought we all
Knew about
got it. Okay, and then the other thing is I went to C2C Tuesday, and despite what the newspaper said yesterday about the delay in opening Collier by a month, we were still given the okay to move back there the end of this month. And I wanted to just put that out there because the visitor count has been down, and it will be nice to have it back up again because it does see 1.9 million visitors every year, which is substantial. It's a nice little asset to the community, but just those two things, C2C and the letter. Her words, not mine. That's all.
I'm checking on it right now.
Okay.
So, it's been busy. And I apologize for cutting you off before you got your report. I was looking that way. Should have looked that way first. So the day after our last meeting on the 19th, we had our League of California Cities Division meeting. And Norm, went. He was there with me as well as Steve was there as well. It was a really nice meeting. There were people from all over Northern California there. In fact, more people than we thought that would show up with the fires and everything going on. I think that was before the car fire though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, yeah.
It was.
And actually, when we went down to Mount Shasta for the meeting, the air quality down there was quite a bit better than ours here after our fire in Hornbrook and the other fires. Yeah, it was actually really nice, and they did take a couple of tours. I wasn't able to go on it, but they went up on top of Mount Shasta. And then they also took people to the headwaters of the Sacramento River, which is right there in the park where the meeting was held. So that was really nice. I thought we had some really good speakers. It was about, the theme of the meeting was about sustainable communities. And so they had 3 speakers. One was the college president, COS president, Dr. Stephen Schoonmaker. He gave a great presentation. Also Heather Stafford, who works for the Department of Education, was there to speak about the gig economy. Some of you may have seen it. I know that it was
What
at Rotary. The gig economy. It's about millennials and younger people in the workforce and the different expectations for work. And also, she gave us a lot of statistics about the age of workers and the type of work environments that younger people are requesting and requiring at this day and age. It was very interesting, don't you think, Norma? And then they also had the Mount Shasta, fairly new Mount Shasta planner, who is a millennial. And when they were talking about millennials wanting to live in tiny houses, she dispelled that myth quickly. She said, I'm a millennial and I live in a 1,600 square foot house. Thank you very much. I like it. So anyway, it was interesting.
I have a comment on her presentation.
Sure, it was interesting.
She presented some temperature facts for Mount Shasta that really blew me away. From
Me too.
1950 to 2005, the average temperature in Mount Shasta was 61.1 degrees. Since 2005, the average temperature has gone up to 65.2. It's up 4.1 degrees in the last 13 years, and it was a graph, and it looked like a significant change in 2005, and she's predicting the future. She says in another 10 to 15 years, the average temperature in Mount Shasta is going to go up to over 7 degrees.
7 degrees,
And
right?
the amount of snowfall in Mount Shasta is just under 4 feet now, and says by the time another 15 years, Mount Shasta, the city limits, will have no more snow, it'll be rain. So climate change is happening drastically in Mount Shasta, and we can see it around here with all the forest fires.
She had a great presentation, and she was supposed to send us a copy of that, which as soon as I get it, I'd be happy to share with you.
I'd like to see that.
It was an eye-opening presentation, it really was. So all 3 of them talked about different aspects of sustainable community, but I thought it was really interesting. I also went to the Siskiyou Revitalization Network meeting with cities from all over Siskiyou County, Etna, Dunsmuir, Weed, Mount Shasta, and a few others, I think. There's going to be another meeting in September. I can let you know when the date is. I had told you about it. Ken Palfini was there from Weed. Bruce Deutsch was there. The 2 mayors, Mayor of Weed, Mayor of Mount Shasta, and the Mayor of Dunsmuir were all there. And we've been working on some projects. Etna had a community project they did a Saturday, and where all the community came together to talk about how to make their community a better place to live, you know, and what type of vision they want to have for their community. And so other communities are looking at that too. That was with a Ford grant, Ford Family Foundation grant. So anyway, it's going forward. I was part of that in the very beginning. It has changed. It used to be called the Main Street Project, and it is now actually evolved into something even bigger. So we're going to be having a teleconference tomorrow to structure how we go forward from there.
Can I mention a letter to the editor that I read within the last 2 weeks? It was regarding the Main Street Project, and it was specifically talking about Etna. And it's interesting because our job is to try to develop economic strength and attract tourism and all this other stuff. Sustainability. And this letter was talking about Etna, and they were actually saying that the reason they moved there was because it was a sleepy, slow area, and the people that are trying to promote and develop aren't necessarily working for the majority of the community. And I thought, wow, okay. So
Well,
I
that's
thought it
hard.
was interesting.
It's hard to say what a majority of the community is because they have a huge turnout
Yeah,
that
according
day.
to the letter.
Right,
But
right.
they did have a valid point, because some people do move
Like
to a
it's
slower
slow.
area for a reason, but I don't think they have to worry about it with any of Siskiyou County going gangbusters to go turn into San Francisco or anything,
No,
but.
no. The whole idea
Interesting.
is to provide jobs, yes, and to provide places to live for people, but, you know, to make sure that people have a good quality of life. And some people have a problem with the term sustainability, but really all sustainability means is that people that live here have a good quality of life, that they're able to work here and live here, and some of the things we've been talking about tonight. So, I think that it's always good to look ahead and plan for the future and to get people from the community to be involved as well. Also, I attended a Women Business Network meeting, and they are also doing visioning, looking toward the future for some things that they would like to do. Women in Business provided 2 scholarships this year, and proud to send young women off to college that are interested in starting their own businesses. So anyway, they've got some other things they want to do. Also, the concert in the park was last Friday night, and I would encourage everyone to attend those. We're so fortunate that when Scott Valley Bank sold to Mechanics Bank agreed to continue the concerts in the park, because it's such a wonderful thing for our community, and I'm really glad to see it going forward. Even though it was a little smoky and probably more people should have had N95 masks, we should maybe look into how we can get a hold of those in bulk. Anyway, looking forward to the fair as well, and hope to see you all there. I'm working at a couple of booths. I know you're working at the Friends of the Fair booth. I signed up to work that as well.
I'll be at the beer booth, or we'll be at the beer booth.
All right.
Well, I'll be at the beer booth.
I'm gonna be working at the. Yes. And also at the Elks hamburger booth and a few other places. So it's, I'm looking forward to it. The Siskiyou Golden Fair is the biggest event of the year, and I think we're all looking forward to it. So that's all my report. No one has anybody else? Anything else?
Yes.
Oh, that's right, we have a closed session.
And-
Okay.
Every
I'll
time you
close
do
it
this.
And go into closed session. Thank you all for coming.